about his ability to maintain control over the disciplinary process. And I think that effective civilian oversight of police can happen while the police chief maintains that authority. I think that civilian input into the investigative process can only add and can give the police chief more information to make his disciplinary decisions. So I just want to acknowledge that that's, I think, a very important point. When you're considering civilian oversight, there are several different models of oversight. I served on the National Board of Civilian Oversight, NACOL, and I like to say that for about as many oversight bodies that there are in the United States and in the world, there are about that many models of oversight. You have, though, and I think there's a good reason for that, because when you start talking about oversight, like you are here in Humboldt County, here in Eureka, what you do is you get citizens out, you get members of the community out, you have government officials who want to have some input into this. Is this being funny? Am I too close? Okay. So you have government officials who have a say in it, and you have the Police Officers Association, usually the police chief, and there's a lot of discussion and there's compromise. But having said that, there are a few basic types of oversight, and it's easiest for me to talk about the different types by talking about my experience. I started about 25 years ago with the Office of Citizen Complaints in San Francisco. That office was formed in 1983, and I was one of the first investigators in the office. The OCC was a ballot initiative, and the citizens established what's considered one of the most powerful bodies of oversight in San Francisco. There was a charter change. The Internal Affairs Office was closed, and the Office of Citizen Complaints actually took over the internal affairs process. So in San Francisco, all of the complaints come into the OCC. They're investigated by civilians. There are civilian lawyers in that office that prosecute, so to speak, or handle those office either before the chief of police or the police commission, depending on the seriousness of the case. While it's one of the most powerful bodies on paper, it's faltered in its mission, I think. It's the head of that department has forever, until quite recently, been political appointees, and the office has not run very well. The more experience I get in this field, the more I believe that layers of oversight are important, because when you have one body and it's not doing a good job, then you don't have effective investigation of police misconduct. And I firmly believe that effective investigation of misconduct is important for quality control. And in my job, I feel that I have something very much in common with the chief of police or the sheriff, in that I want to see the department run well, and if there are problem officers, I want them to be, that problem behavior to be to fix. So I think you need effective systems. Just some basic statistics. The city of San Francisco has about 750,000 people. It has a police force of about 200. They get about 1,000 complaints a year at the OCC. One thing that happened recently is I think that they just hired a very effective director, and it's my hope that the OCC will be up and doing a great job. The OCC is a confidential process because it took over the internal affairs process. I went from San Francisco to the city of Berkeley. The city of Berkeley has one of the oldest police review commissions in the United States. The Berkeley PRC started in 1974, I believe, 73 or 74. It's about 35 years old. The commission is a body of 9 that each one is appointed by the members of the council and the mayor. And is it bad still, or no? Okay. By the mayor and council, and I was staff to the commission. Sit back. I was staff to the commission. Is that better? Okay. Sorry. I was staff to the Police Review Commission. We investigated the complaints that came into the PRC office, and those complaints, we held public hearings on those cases, and the Berkeley model was very powerful in that citizens got to hear the police misconduct cases, got to make a ruling on them, and made advisory recommendations to the police chief and the city manager. There was recent case law, Copley versus, I think it's the county or city of San Diego. That recent law has put the Berkeley process behind closed doors. They can no longer have these open hearings that I think is part of what made the Berkeley Police Review Commission process very powerful and a very important part of the Berkeley community and the police misconduct investigative process in Berkeley. Both the Office of Citizen Complaints and the City of Berkeley and the job I have now, the independent police auditor, we all have the authority to make policy recommendations, and I think that that's a very important part of the oversight process as well. The City of Berkeley has about 108,000 people. There are 200 police officers in Berkeley, about 200, and they get about 100 complaints a year. The Berkeley PRC only saw the cases that came into the PRC office. If someone filed a complaint in the Internal Affairs office, we didn't see that. So we only saw about half of what was going on as far as police misconduct. I've been with the Independent Police Auditor's Office in the city of San Jose now for 3 years. I think the important thing and the powerful thing about the IPA in San Jose is that I have the ability to review and to audit all of the cases that come in through the Internal Affairs office. But people have the authority to file complaints in my office. Those complaints then go to the Internal Affairs Department. Internal Affairs does the investigation. We have the authority to sit in on the interviews of witnesses, and we regularly sit in on interviews of police officers during the investigative process. We can ask questions through the Internal Affairs investigators. So we make it, it's important that we be able to sit in on those interviews, because very often, some questions might get overlooked, or we might view the case differently than the Internal Affairs investigator. We also, in San Jose, have the authority, some authority over officer-involved shootings. We are called out to the scene if there's a shooting, and we are given a rundown as to what happened, where people were standing. We get kind of a sense of what the lighting was. And I do think it's an effective process in that we also have the authority to, or we're required to do statistical reports that go to the mayor and council. I'm a council appointee, one of 6 in San Jose. I'm independent from the police chief and the police department, and again, report directly to the mayor and council. We see outreach as very important. We have these flyers in 3 languages, and also our youth guide to police practices is something that comes out in 3 languages as well. My time's up, I think. Hard to say it in 10 minutes, but I look forward to your questions. And I want to say that civilian oversight, I'm going to steal a line from John Crew, who used to be with the ACLU in San Francisco. Civilian oversight is not about bad officers or a bad police department. It's about good government, and I firmly believe that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Bob?
Thank you. Of course, now that I've heard everyone else, I'm going to throw my script down. I intentionally do all different sides. So one of the things that means is I guarantee I will leave